Hello and welcome to the Fedora Files. I am Gregory Fedora. With me today is a great guest. Now, the guest, before you start talking, he has done a lot of things that we could talk about. He's owned businesses. He's been in the Navy. He's been a firefighter. He's been a swift water rescue guy, or he is a swift water rescue guy and a firefighter. But he's done a ton of things and has a ton of stories. But the thing I'm focused on today, or we're going to focus on, is mountain climbing. You're a mountain climber, and you are Dave Mauldin.
Well, I guess you could say I walk up hills.
Yeah.
I don't know about mountain climbing.
You climb mountains. You climb mountains. Now, how many mountains have you actually climbed?
Probably three that most people might know of. One definitely that most people would know of. But in the grand scheme of things, I have not climbed a ton of mountains like a professional mountain climber would have.
No, well, you're an amateur, but you're doing...
Yes, I do it on an amateur level, and I have fun with it.
Yeah. But, all right, so climbing... There's a difference between climbing and summiting a mountain.
This is true.
So, I know you've climbed some and not reached the summit.
Correct.
So what mountains have you climbed? Like, can you name them for us?
So we predominantly Mount Rainier is the one we probably spent the most time on. Mm-hmm. That's in the Pacific Northwest. It's about 2 hours outside of Seattle, and it's very well known as a training grounds for people that go to Alaska or people that go to the Himalayas. Mm-hmm. Just because it is. The prominence of the mountain is so great because you have the Pacific Northwest weather coming in off the coast, and it's very flat, and then you have this mountain and it just gets slammed with the weather. So even like Himalayan climbers come over there here and say they experience weather on Rainier that they would experience on like even in Everest conditions and stuff like that, just because it gets wild.
Cool. So, what got you decide, like, one day you just decide, I want to climb mountains? What was that?
I've always liked to climb. It was big. We were always outdoors, just literally climbing trees as a kid. Probably when I went into the military, where I grew up, climbing was not a big thing. I grew up in a small town south of Southern Virginia called Danville, Virginia. Dan Vegas, as a lot of people call it, but baseball, football, basketball were like the sports. That's what people played. Extreme or outsider type sports weren't really a popular thing. Mm-hmm. So, but when I went to the military, I met up with some people, and they rock climbed, and so I was like, hey, let me try that out. And they took me out. This was in Greece for the first time. And that's when I fell in love with climbing. We started with rock climbing at that time. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. And so, of all the mountains you've climbed, what is one, I mean, I know you haven't climbed a ton, but other than Rainier, what is one that's been like super memorable for you?
Rainier was very memorable just because, I mean, we finally got to Rainier on our third attempt. Mm-hmm. Just because the weather is so crazy on Rainier, and when you put a lot of time and effort, like once you start doing a workup to like, hey, I'm gonna go climb this mountain. It's not something that you just go like, hey, we're gonna do that tomorrow. So you put a lot of time and effort into it, and plus it's all the way across country. There's permit fees. There's all this stuff involved. So when you finally get there, and you get very close to the summit, it's really hard to turn around and come back and not summit it. So finally getting there after 3 years was a big deal, but it wasn't the hardest. That's for sure.
Well, what was the hardest one you've climbed?
The hardest one was actually recently in November. We went down to Mexico, and we climbed some of the more famous Mexican like the volcanoes. We had a goal of climbing 3. We climbed 2. One was Malinche, which is a volcano. These are all stratovolcanoes. They're outside of Mexico City. It was about 14.5. That was like a warm-up hike, and that was higher than Rainier. And then the second one we did was one called Ixtahuatl, and that was a huge, long traverse. We went over 5,000 meters for the first time, which was really cool. It's about 16,500 feet. And then we topped off on that. That was an evolution. That was
Oh, nice.
that was that was a ball buster, for sure.
Now, to prepare for like mountain hike, it's not something where you could just be like, let's say you're like, okay, I'm gonna go try and climb Mount Rainier tomorrow, go get the stuff and do it. Like, I mean, I'm sure people have tried that, but it's probably not smart. How do you prepare for like a climb, like knowing you're gonna go to such and such a mountain? When do you
Yeah.
begin your training?
Yeah, like I guess there's really 2 aspects to that, because when you're like, if you're gonna go walk the Appalachian Trail, you know, it's a trail and there's some technical aspects of it, but it's rocks and creeks and trails, stuff like that. When you go up the mountains like these that are glaciated, meaning like basically an ice formation that's sliding down the mountain. They have, you know, crevasses and stuff. So when you're doing glacier travel, there's an aspect of having technical knowledge as well in the mountains. So there's a physical aspect of knowledge and a technical aspect of knowledge for training purposes. But the physical aspect, standard, lots of running, lots of step ups, lots of just day hikes with weighted packs, and I, you know, incorporate CrossFit and other supplementary stuff that I like to do too. But and then there's the technical aspect. Hey, you know, you need to know ropes, you need to know rope travel, you need to know crevasse rescue, how to set up rescue systems if someone were to fall in a crevasse, to be able to haul them out. Just all that aspect of it too. So it's physical and technical before you do that.
So have you ever had to rescue anyone, or been in the process, or been rescued?
Not out of a crevasse, thank God.
Right.
No, I think we have sunken into some crevasses by accident on the descent of Rainier. One time it was really hot, and you climb early in the morning on these high mountains because it's very cold. Because over these and crevasses is just a fancy word for a big crack in the ice, like 100-foot deep crack of ice. But you climb early in the morning because these snow bridges build over top of these crevasses and they're frozen, so you don't fall through. Well, as the day warms on, these snow bridges get soft, and like on the descent, we were plunging through, and our boots were dangling in midair, you know, so underneath us was probably a big crevasse. But no, I've never fell in one and had to rescue someone out of one. The only, when we were training back in 2021, we were training to go to Alaska to climb Denali, and we did some like crevasse rescue training. Basically, we made Bob in a big trash bag full of snow and threw it over in a crevasse, and then we set up our anchor systems and our rope systems and trained on how to pull them out of a crevasse. But thank the Lord, I don't ever want to rescue anybody in a crevasse, but knowing how to is very important.
So, what are the planned, or in your mind, what mountains are you planning to hit within the next like 5-10 years? What are your hopes?
5-10 years?
Well, let's do 5. Let's go 5.
5 years. Well, we need to go back to Mexico. Like I said, we did Malinche, we did Ixtahuatl. Orizaba is was the third, I guess the trifecta that we were trying to do. Orizaba is the highest in Mexico. It's the third highest in North America. But the conditions just weren't working right that day for the mountain, which it happens. So we definitely need to go back and do Orizaba, and we actually are looking down also in South America to other mountains. One's called Cotopaxi, and one's called Chimborazo, which is a really, really cool mountains. They're up in like the 20,000 range.
Oh, nice. So those are the ones you're planning for the next 5 years.
Yeah, that's probably hopefully next couple years.
Okay.
Next 5 years. There are two overseas that I would like to do. One is the Matterhorn. If anybody's ever seen like the picturesque spire of a mountain over in Switzerland, but that's not like super alpine. It's much more technical. And then there's also Abla Dablam, which is over in Nepal. It's like the Matterhorn of the Himalayas.
Oh, okay.
And that's really cool too.
Nice. So if someone were deciding, like now they've listened to you and like they want to get into it, what would you suggest they start with to get into climbing mountains?
Honestly, it's kind of difficult on the East Coast, but I mean, I guess the best thing would be check out some social media sites. Go on, there's Alpine social media, Facebook groups, stuff like that. I know there's some Mid-Atlantic stuff. I got lucky. Like I said, I'm a fireman, and a buddy on my shift had a lot of experience. He's actually my climbing partner. So he really, without Tom, I probably would never have done any of, the cool stuff that we've done. He just had some of that mountaineering experience. He had been to Denali, and I brought that up one day just as yeah, man, it'd be cool to do something like that. And his eyes perked up, and he's like, well, really? So, he's the one that took me to Rainier first. He guided me on Rainier. And so I kind of fell into that.
All right, so I just got a couple more questions. So can you explain the feeling you got the first time you summited Rainier? Like, what was that feeling?
It was definitely a feeling of accomplishment, Like I said, like Ozzy.
Yeah.
Excuse my dog. But it was 3 years in the making, so it was definitely kind of cool. I mean, there's guides out there. They go up it every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They do 2, 3. Well, man, they do 2 summits, or sometimes they do more than that summits. A week.
Mm-hmm.
But they also live out there. That's their jobs, and that's cool for us flatlanders out here in the East Coast to do all that and do all the logistical stuff and the training and stuff and not really get guided. We do all our stuff self-supported. We don't take guides up. We did in Mexico, but on Rainier we usually don't. So 3 years in the making, it was a good feeling. It was definitely a cool feeling, for sure.
And of the mountains in America, what is there are you planning to do Denali? I know you mentioned it briefly, like that you had is that in your plans to hit that?
Yeah, I would love to do Denali. Denali is it's a big commitment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like something. The cool thing about Mexico, the cool thing about Rainier is we can be out and back in 6-7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
The Denali is 21, 28 days. It's no longer a trip. It's now an expedition.
Mm-hmm.
and it's taxing. It's taxing on my wife. It's taxing on kids, family. There's been plenty of times, like, and every mountaineer, alpine climber will tell you, walking up a hill, which is what they're essentially doing. The thought going through your head, like, what in the hell am I doing this for? You know what I mean? Like, if I, and this sounds out there, but like, if I die walking up a hill, like, that's just stupid, and my family's back home, and here I am walking up this hill. And then you just kind of snap out of it and go, all right, cool, I got to get up this mountain. That's just how it is.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I know you are busy and you got things to do other than sit here with me. And so I thank you for coming on. I appreciate
you having me, man.
That's good.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Well, I hope that,
Honor.
It's an honor to have you. And I hope that when you, on your next climbs, when you come back, you can come back on and tell us more of your adventures.
I'll tell you about the 10-year plan next time.
All right, yes. Well, let's get a couple more mountains summited, and then we'll discuss the 10-year plan.
There you go. It'll be in Nepal, I can tell you that much.
All right. Well, I look forward to having you back. See, it's like, it's a tease, so part 2 will come. Again, people will come back. So, awesome. And for those of you who are listening or watching or however you found us, thank you, and remember to always stay safe and keep searching.
Fedora Fans. Check out fedoracrt.com today.